Bass player Robert and I met each other a few years back in Long Beach, California, at a place called Fender's Ballroom, where there used to be a lot of punk rock shows. We actually met at a Black Flag concert, and it turned out through the conversation, like through talking, after we figured out, we both found that we were both musicians, and we found that we were both seeing the same girl at the same time, which was a really strange thing, and we kind of laughed about it. It wasn't any serious kind of relationship, it was more of like, I've been seeing, it's like, oh yeah, this girl I've been seeing, she lives over here, and he's like, so does the girl that I've been seeing. So I was like, what's her name? Michelle. And it turned out it was a strange thing. But anyway, so at the time we were both I was living with my parents, and he was kind of staying at one of his buddies' house doing the couch tour kind of thing. And so we said, well, this girl happened to be having to move back to Texas, where she was from, because she was getting warrants in the mail, and that's, she split without telling her landlord. And in California, there's 3 months before you can actually evict someone out of a apartment. So we said, well, let's just take over. He's like, Robert's like, I got a key to her place. Let's take over there. The manager doesn't even live on the premises. So we said, okay, we'll stay there as long as we can stay. So we hung out there and just sort of started writing little weird things on his mini 8-track recorder, just twisted mental, kind of commercial jingle things. The one that stands to mind the most was this thing we did about a product that we came up with called Dr. Lymph Nodes Duck Butter Brand Butt Wax. And just sick, crazy little things like that. Robert's from New Jersey, so he's got that really mental sort of East Coast humor. But then we ended up saying, we really should try to put some kind of musical project together. I listened to a lot of the music that Robert had written himself, just instrumentally, and all the different sort of influences that he had growing up with were caused him to really have a unique style in writing. I mean, some of this stuff would sound have a progressive kind of twinge to it, from a Kim Crimson-ish feel, then to something really, heavy and sludgy, like a Black Sabbath-y kind of thing. And I myself, not growing up listening at first to a lot of the whole, heavy rock and roll thing, so I really can't claim to that. I can't say I sat around in a dark room and shot dope and listened to Led Zeppelin too much. Actually, the first band I ever really got into was, my parents went to a Beatlemania concert and brought me back a live concert album, so I played the thing day and night. I was thinking, geez, these guys write great songs. But anyway, so Robert and I got this band together, and we said, well, we need a drummer. We were at the time just screwing around, writing a few ideas. So we went out to a club. We actually went out to a few clubs. We didn't want to put an ad in the paper because you get a lot of morons that way, saying oh yeah, I can do this, I can do that. But we went to this small club, and there was a band playing that really sucked. But the drummer of the band hit the drums so hard that he was playing louder than the rest of everybody else. I mean, it was a kind of stage volume kind of thing where the only thing was Mike was vocals. But the guy just was playing as loud as he could and didn't care that he was covering up and totally overshadowing everybody else. And we were saying we should get this guy in our band. This guy, he's you can't hear the singer and he doesn't even care. So we talked to Eric about it. Said, well, let's go do some demos together. We got an 8-track. Let's do some demos. Problem was guitar players. At that time, we were looking for guitar players. The only good guitar players were already taken up in bands, and it seemed everyone was into this total cheeseball, Yngwie Malmsteen kind of like, oh, let's see what I can do, look at me masturbate, you know what I mean, with my guitar kind of thing. And we really were looking for someone that had a lot more soul with their playing and didn't look at guitar as just, with tunnel vision, looked at it like, as a way to express all kinds of different, moods and atmospheres and that. And Robert actually kept on saying, we should get my brother, come out from Jersey. They're both from New Jersey originally. So finally Dean said, okay, I'll come out, just, do these demos, I need a vacation anyway. And so Dean comes out, we do a couple demos together, and everything goes really well. And he decides to stay. We decide, well, we should do this. We've always wanted. That's all we've ever really wanted to do. All of us was do music, and this seemed like a great chance. Rather than doing the trial and error, like being 99 different bands. You know what I mean? Let's really try to do something with this. So Dean met somebody, and I met a girl who lived in San Diego, and he moved down to San Diego, and we basically started doing most of our live playing down there, because at that time the whole LA scene was kind of an anal atmosphere, bands just got together, came from all over just to try to get like the big deal, and so they're all writing songs like just to try to get the big deal. Then you have like local people that like they all work like in their record store, clothing store jobs like on Melrose, and they all it's this whole like kind of like scene thing that we really didn't want to jump into and embrace as what we're about. So we kind of honed our live playing for the most part in San Diego, playing some shows in LA because I was living in the area. As far as getting together, that's basically how we got together.
So what's the naming? How'd you pick the name?
At first, for a while, we were called ourselves Mighty Joe Young. When I was a kid, when I was a kid and lived in Cleveland, we used to drive to my great aunt's house in Evanston, Illinois. I remember for Thanksgiving, and being bored, I sat around and watched a lot of, Thanksgiving holiday TV, and Mighty Joe Young seemed to be on every single Thanksgiving. It was like one of those things, like I forgot, what is it, on like 4th of July, they play Twilight Zone, like hour after hour all day long. Well, that was Mighty Joe Young was on every Thanksgiving, and that we ended up adopting that name. But we had to lose the name because there's an old blues cat in Chicago who found out who goes by Mighty Joe Young, and he'd been going by Mighty Joe Young ever since he started making records, even on his little independent label. At the time, we didn't think it would really make much of a difference. The guy was really old, hadn't really done anything, and so we get done doing the record and all, and actually it was the day we had a little informal listening party just for some friends and for some people over at Atlantic, and we get a phone call from our manager saying, Eric Greenspan just called me, who's our attorney. We're going to have to change the name. And we were like, Steve, you're just joking, right? And he's like, no, serious. We're going to have to change the name. This guy, Mighty Joe Young, I don't know what the deal is, but maybe he's like cancer's in a remission or something, or maybe he like clawed his way out of his grave or whatever, but he's on a big blues festival this summer. And we're like, right, great. So we went through like a little period of time trying to change the name, thinking of different names and that. And the first thing that stuck in mind for me was that I really liked was I just got this vision of my old first bicycle that I ever had when I was a kid. And on the bicycle, on the big banana seat, like every other kid my age, I had this big STP sticker that, you know, everybody had at the time. You know, big STP stickers. You'd stick it on your wall right next to, like, your, you know, Bay City Rollers poster or something. And I thought, well, this is a cool thing, you know. This is a really that's amazing, you know. If Andy Warhol were alive, you know, he would think that is like, you know, complete, total, you know, pop art, you know, genius. But anyway, it seemed like a cool idea, and but we had to think of something to that it meant. And first, we were kind of partial to Shirley Temple's Pussy, but we were advised that that might not be taken so well, so we said, okay, well, then Stone Temple Pilots seemed to fit really well, because it was kind of like a contradiction, like all of us are, like everybody is. I mean, everybody basically, when you think about it, is kind of like a contradiction. You know, you'll act in this certain way, and you'll stand by this thing, but yet you're like, 30 minutes later, you'll go and do something that totally contradicts what you're actually about or what you say. But the whole thing is kind of... Actually, it was somebody that, after we already picked the name, brought up the fact that, you know, hey, now did you pick that name because it's, like, sort of representative towards your sound? I mean, you got this heavy sound, but then sometimes you have this light, ethereal sound. So it's kind of like Stone Temple Pilots. It's kind of like, you know, soars. And we're like, no, but thanks, man. That helps out. You know, I'll say that in an interview or something. But in actuality, we're more partial, more fond of the new name in a way. It feels like that is what we are. That is the name of the band. And we don't have to worry about the bothersome comparison to that other band that has the Joe in their name. We don't need to mention that, though.
So let's, if you weren't a musician, you know, what do you think you'd want to do? What were your other fantasies as a kid?
Besides every other kid at the time that probably grew up around the late 60s, was born in the late 60s and grew up through the 70s, that ever drank Ovaltine or any of those, what was that orange drink again? Tang, yeah. I wanted to be an astronaut. I mean, everyone wanted to be an astronaut. And I